Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the finances of a true energy giant, NextEra. And we're not looking at some fluffy press release. Nope. We're going straight to the source, their official Q3 2025 government filing.
I mean, have you ever wondered how a company this big, we're talking a $150 billion energy giant, really works? Like, what's their game plan? What are they celebrating? And maybe more importantly, what actually keeps their leaders up at night?
Well, you're not going to find those answers in some slick marketing brochure. The real clues are hidden right here, in this document, the Form 10Q. It's something they have to file with the government. So let's peel back the layers and see what the numbers are really telling us. Okay, first things first. To really get a handle on NextEra, you've got to understand that it's not just one single thing. It's more like a company with two different personalities, two businesses under one roof. You've got the steady anchor, and then you have the high-flying growth engine.
So on one hand, you have the parent company, NextEra Energy, kind of the big umbrella for everything. And under that umbrella is its most well-known part, Florida Power and Light. You've probably heard of them as FPL. Think of FPL as that steady anchor we just talked about. It's a classic regulated utility. That means it's got a protected market in Florida, overseen by the state, and it just brings in a steady, predictable income. Super reliable. But then you've got NextEra Energy Resources, or NEER. And this is the growth engine. This is the competitive, fast-moving side of the business, all in on building out renewables all across the country. So you see, one side is all about stability, the other is all about growth.
Okay, so with this two-part strategy, how'd they actually do? Let's get right to it and check out the bottom line for this past quarter. Wow. Okay, the headline number here is the profit. For the third quarter of 2025, NextEra brought in a net income of over $2.4 billion. And that little phrase, attributable to the company, that just means it's the slice of the pie that belongs to NextEra's shareholders. But think about that. $2.4 billion in just 3 months. That's a staggering amount of money. And it's not just a big number in a vacuum. The report itself points out just how massive the jump was. This quote here says their net income went up by $586 million. That's compared to the exact same 3 months last year. That's some serious growth. And when you put the numbers side by side like this, you really see the story. Look at that. They went from about $1.85 billion in Q3 last year to over $2.43 billion this year. That's not just a little bump. That's a huge leap. And it's basically the numbers screaming that their strategy is working. But, huge profits don't mean it's all smooth sailing. Not at all. In fact, the 10Q legally forces the company to list out everything that could possibly go wrong. It creates what investors call a wall of worry, and honestly, it's a fascinating peek into what the company is truly afraid of. Yeah, this isn't just a bunch of legal jargon. It's basically a catalog of everything that could derail the business. Let's break this wall of worry down into a few key areas they have to tell us about. First up, you've got your operational risks. This is the hands-on, day-to-day stuff. We're talking about very real threats like severe weather, think hurricanes knocking out the grid, or digital threats like a massive cyber attack. And then there's the market stuff, like fuel prices suddenly spiking, or a big construction project getting hit with delays and cost overruns. Next, there are the big financial risks. Things like the credit markets freezing up, which would mean they can't borrow money when they need it. Or the risk of their credit rating getting downgraded, which would make all their debt way more expensive. They even have to worry about the stock market having a bad year and hurting their own employee pension funds. And here's a big one. Because they run nuclear power plants, they have this whole separate category of unique risks. We're talking about the huge cost of new safety regulations. But get this. They could also face massive financial penalties if a major incident happens at any nuclear plant in the country, even if it's not one of theirs. That's a pretty heavy burden. Okay, so you've got this giant wall of worry. How on earth does a company like NextEra manage all that risk? Especially when you're dealing with something as unpredictable as energy prices. How do they protect themselves? Well, one of their secret weapons is something called a derivative instrument. Now, I know that sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Think about it like a farmer who, back in the spring, agrees to sell all his corn for a set price at harvest time in the fall. No matter what the market does, he knows what he's getting. That's a derivative. It's a contract that lets you lock in a price today for something you're going to sell in the future. It's all about taking the guesswork out of it. And don't just take my word for it. The company says it right here in the report. They use these tools to, quote, reduce the effect of adverse changes in the market. It's literally an insurance policy against wild price swings for things like natural gas and electricity.
So the process is pretty straightforward, really. Step 1, their power plants generate electricity. Step 2, instead of just crossing their fingers and hoping for a good price on the open market, they use one of these derivative contracts to lock in a selling price right now. And step 3, the result is that they've basically eliminated the risk of the market suddenly tanking. For a company of this size, that kind of predictability is absolutely golden.
All right, so we've looked at their two-part strategy, their huge profits, and that big wall of risks. Let's pull back and look at the big picture. What does this all really tell us? At the end of the day, here's the story of NextEra in a nutshell. It's a hybrid company. You've got this super stable utility bolted onto a high-growth renewables engine. And that combo is clearly driving incredible profits. But, and this is a big but, to hang on to those profits, they have to navigate a total minefield of risks. Everything from actual hurricanes to financial market crashes, and they do it using these really complex financial tools as a shield. And that really leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? For a company that is constantly facing storms, and I mean both literal storms like hurricanes and financial storms in the market, is this dual strategy, this blend of a stable foundation and a risky growth engine, is it going to be enough to weather whatever comes next?